webinar live from the European Parliament in Strasbourg. We will have two panels this afternoon. The first right now on protecting freedom of speech and freedom of the press. This will be followed by a second panel discussion on the future of European cinema after the COVID-19 pandemic. Before we commence with our two panels, my colleague Eva, who will be following live questions on WebEx, has some announcements.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Jim.
Good afternoon.
Some instructions for the audience who is connected via WebEx. We will be very happy to give you the floor and that you can ask your question directly to the speakers today. But we need to organize a bit. For that, open the chat window right side of your panel and start posting your questions as soon as you think about them. Do not leave them for the end. State your name and your country before the question. Some profiles do not contain the name, so I need to know the name in order to give you the floor. If you are a journalist, indicate media at the beginning of the question and also include the media you work for. I will give you the floor and open your mic. But if you prefer, indicate that we should read the question and I will do. In any case, if there's a technical issue from your side when connecting with you, I will be able to read the question from the chat. Back to you, Jim.
Thank you, Eva. I'd like to thank all of you who are viewing also on our LUX Award Facebook page as well as on our LUX Award website. Now let's start with the first panel. Thank you everyone for being here. We're going to discuss protecting freedom of expression and freedom of the press. It's my great pleasure to introduce our guests, starting with you, Mike Downey, the chair of the European Film Academy, Parliament's partner in running the LUX Audience Award. Mike has produced over 100 feature films. You launched an independent production company on the Frankfurt Stock Exchange about 20 years ago, and you're now the honorary president of the LUX Audience Award. Verfolge Rot, Mike. I welcome also Bartosz Bielenia, the lead actor of Corpus Christi, one of 3 films nominated for the LUX Audience Award. Corpus Christi premiered at the 2019 Venice Film Festival and was selected as the Polish entry for the Best International Feature Film at the 92nd Academy Awards. A very warm welcome, Bartosz. Witamy. I'm not exactly sure how to say it in Polish. Now I'm going to get in trouble because I don't know Finnish and Romanian. We're also delighted to have one of the lead protagonists of Collective, a 2019 Romanian documentary film also in the running for this year's LUX Audience Award. Welcome, Cătălin Tolontan.
Thank you. Thank you for having us, not me, because it's not I in any team.
Thank you very much for being here. We're delighted to have you. And Collective, of course, garnered 2 nominations at the 2021 Academy Awards. And last but certainly not least, we have the Vice President of the European Parliament, Heidi Hautala, who has just joined us from the plenary chamber. Welcome, Vice President Hautala.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here with the authors and actors.
Thank you. So, again, to all of you following the webinar on WebEx, as Eva said, please do send us your comments and questions, and we'll put as many of them as possible to our guests in the coming half an hour or so. Mike, I'd like to start with you. Parliament has been awarding a film prize since 2007. As chair of the European Film Academy, can you tell us a little bit about the newly launched, revamped LUX Audience Film Award?
Well, the newly launched award, the LUX Audience Award, it has a longer name, which I won't go into at the moment.
No need.
Is the coming together of 4 important acronyms, I think, in European culture for the very first time. The European Parliament, the European Film Academy, Creative Europe, and essentially Europa Cinemas, because this is a prize which is about reaching out to the audience and bringing looks to the audience, bringing light and highlighting socio-political affairs as well as, creative aspects and fictional aspects and documentary aspects, which are really very, very important to us. So it's great that for the first time all of these acronyms can come together and hopefully make something which is bigger, better, more influential, and more importantly, reaches out to the audiences in the cinemas in these very difficult times.
Excellent, brilliant. Thank you. Bartosz is lead actor of Corpus Christi, or Boże Ciało,
Yes.
in Polish, I think.
Very, very good pronunciation.
Good, thank you. A film in which an imposter shakes up the status quo, and I won't draw any parallels to political life. Maybe you want to do that, Vice President Hautala. Can you tell us a little bit about the deception that is at the core of your film?
We were creating a film about just love and compassion, which is in the core of this character. So hopefully that just was such a huge influence in the world, and it brought this film in so many places.
Excellent, thank you. And also nominated for the 2021 Lux Film Award, the Lux Audience Award, is Collective, a documentary film about an heroic reporter who uncovers fraud, corruption and maladministration. And that heroic reporter is right here beside me. Katalin, can you tell us what you discovered following the nightclub fire in 2015, I believe?
Yes, and in my rusty English, I have to say that it's not such thing like a heroic reporter. Which, no, we have been working in investigation for more than 25 years.
Yep.
And the people trust us because we have results. Of course, for us, results means information for the public. But sometimes for them, results mean punishment and jail. And one Vice Prime Minister, 2 ministers, and dozen of high-rank officials went in jail after our investigation. Of course, not after our investigation, because we are a newsroom, not a courtroom, but about our information. Seeking the information for the public, it's our duty. And I can talk about collective, because Alexander now will come later, and I will give you a small piece, a small moment from Corpus Christi, but it's so profound for me as citizen, as European citizen, because Bartosz and a mayor, an omnipotent mayor, talk each other in a car, in a Audi. I think it's a luxury car owned by mayor, and Bartosz told the mayor, okay, maybe you have the power, but I have the justice because I'm right. And the answer of the mayor is, yes, you are rightful, but still I have the power. I think this is for me as European citizen the main risk right now. Millions and millions of Europeans feel they have the rightness, but they don't have the power. They don't have the fair share, and we are in the huge risk right now because in few months we launched the next European plan for financing after the COVID. It's about 1.8 trillion. I think this is the not only the next, but with the regular funds. Yes.
So we have
it's a huge amount of money, and we have to be very careful, because if this money are going in the black market, and they, corruption doesn't mean that somebody take public money and slip away in a Aegean Sea with a luxury boat. No, corruption means this money are going to bribes, sometimes media, sometimes prosecutors, sometimes almost judge. And this is for me, as journalist and a citizen, a huge risk for the years to come.
So, Vice President Hautala, would you like to follow up on the point about the 1.1 trillion euro multi-annual budget plus the COVID recovery fund? It's the 1.8 trillion that Katalin refers to. How can we ensure that this money is spent well? It's a little bit off topic, but...
No, it's not off topic.
No.
I would say that all the films touch something very deep in our work in the European Parliament, all in very different ways. Maybe the easiest is the collective, because we're dealing with legislation to how to protect whistleblowers, and that's up and coming.
They are
it's
the
already
heroes.
agreed.
Excuse me, Vice President. The whistleblowers are the heroes, not the journalists.
We can see that you are wonderfully modest, but you did a great job.
No.
And then, indeed, to protect the public money is a big thing here. We talk about how Hungarian and Czech leaders are actually sort of managing to enrich themselves and their friends with the help of European budget.
Not only Polish too.
Sorry, but yes,
Polish too.
I didn't want to neglect Poland at all in this.
Feel free.
Yeah. So indeed, this is really quite important for our work. But I would say that all these films, they touch really something very deep. Like let's take Thomas Winterberg's film, the One More Round. It's really about the purpose of life. how people get bored and then they start gambling with their lives, and then they realize that there's a huge loss because of that gambling. And of course, the Polish-French film, where you are the protagonist, it tells something very deep about the sort of human nature, and you said love and compassion is the message. And indeed, in the midst of all these horrible things that we didn't really want to see, all this sort of beautiful feelings come up, and the common good, it doesn't end up very well, I think.
There's a prize, and it's kind of sad outcome of our film that there is a prize for doing right, and I'm not sure if I want to see the world doing that, like paying big price for doing the right thing that we all think that we should do, you know? But I don't know.
Yeah.
Vice President Hautala, so many people who are watching may also be familiar with the Sakharov Prize, the
Yes.
Human Rights Prize, which is maybe even more closely linked with freedom of expression. Do you also see a role, however, for the LUX Audience Award in this regard, or is it all about freedom of expression, basically?
Yeah, I mean, naturally the questions arise that where's the limit? How far could you go in your different stories to provoke and to harass those in power? I think it's quite a tragedy when we see in the collective that the health minister's party really is losing the election, even if he's trying to learn to correct things. And then there's a lot of propaganda in the game just before election, political instrumentalization of the tragedy. So this is what politicians know in each country, but it's quite dramatic to watch how you were there working on this case.
So, Mike, actually in the past hour, members of Parliament were debating the fallout from the abduction and imprisonment about a fortnight ago, or just over a fortnight ago, of the Belarusian journalist Roman Protasevich and his girlfriend Sofia Sapega. As you all know, they were on a Ryanair flight from Athens to Vilnius when there was a forced landing at Minsk airport. Mike, at last year's Venice Film Festival, you read out a statement by Ukrainian film producer, filmmaker and Sakharov Prize laureate, Oleg Sentsov, where he spoke about the situation in Belarus and his concerns for artists there. Often journalists and filmmakers face the same risks, the same political repercussions, perhaps. Is the situation getting worse in your view? And feel free if you want to discuss the remarks of Oleg Sentsov from last year.
Yeah, I mean, the situation is getting worse, and at the moment there are two major issues, especially for filmmakers at risk and for freedom of expression. I mean, it's great that we're here in Strasbourg, in the place where Oleg Sentsov actually received in absentia the Sakharov Prize, and that made a huge difference to the campaign. I was very much involved in the campaign to free him, and in effect the organization which we created in Venice last year, the International Coalition for Filmmakers at Risk, is a result of the campaigning that took place on behalf of Sentsov, because actually we were all amateurs trying to do this thing, and we decided afterwards that if this was going to happen again, it should be weaponized, professionalized, and we should be made, the filmmakers deserve better, actually. So the situation in Myanmar at the moment and the situation in Belarus is extremely acute. Only 2 days ago, the rising filmmaker Ma Ain't from Myanmar disappeared without trace from her home. And there's, her family have no knowledge of where she is right now. She is among hundreds of people, hundreds of artists in Myanmar at the moment who are arrested or in detention. And what we're trying to do as the International Coalition for Filmmakers at Risk is draw attention to this fact, and I'm glad that today I've been able to talk about her case here, because it's a very, very important one. But, filmmaking and the freedom of expression and documentary film are essential to a healthy and democratic society. This is sort of why it's important to be talked about here. That's why it's feared by autocrats, and you know this better than anyone else. Documentary film is a form that allows us to walk in each other's shoes, that gives us a shared sense of humanity, that gives voice to the marginalized and the scorned, and it strives to hold those in power to account. And we need to defend the people that are doing that. And so that's a long answer to say, yes, it is getting worse.
It's a good answer, thank you. So this is something, you mentioned Myanmar as well. This is something also that the Parliament has been closely monitoring. And Belarus now, of course, as well. Vice President Hautala, whether it's the Sakharov Prize, which we've mentioned, the Lux Audience Award, or indeed the Caruana Galizia Award for Journalism, all have a role in promoting freedom of expression, freedom of the press. As Roman Protasevich sits in a Belarusian jail, what would be your message to him and to many others like him who have put their freedom and lives at risk simply by speaking the truth?
This institution is good at raising the cases, as today, and tomorrow there's a meeting of the Parliamentarians International Alliance for Myanmar. I'm very happy to raise the case there.
Please.
So I very much agree that film, documentary, but also feature film is really instrumental in understanding society, politics, human life, of course. And there's so many film festivals now which really focus on human rights in different ways, and it's great that the European Parliament can interact with them. Last week we had the Czech-based One World Film Festival here. And indeed, it's a great honor for us to have this interaction without trying to interfere in any way in the world of arts, only just to raise these issues that you want to be talked about.
Absolutely. And I have to say that in the cases that we have been dealing with over the last, let's say, 18 months, it's ranged from Kirill Serebrennikov in Russia, Deng Xiaoping in China.
Yeah.
A current case we have is Moataz Abdelwahib in Egypt, which the special envoys and the human rights envoys of the European Commission have been active in helping us to put pressure on the people especially in Egypt. Coming back to Belarus, we were instrumental in getting Tatiana Hatura-Yakovska out of prison. She was in for a week and was then banished, in fact, with her husband, and they're now living in the Ukraine. There are a whole kind of huge numbers of filmmakers which, in the last 18 months since we've been really operating properly, have come to our attention, and the support from the European Parliament and the European Commission has been great. So anything you can do to take that further in your meeting tomorrow with the case of Ma Ain't would be fabulous.
But could I ask Bartosz, you, how is it to be a filmmaker actor in Poland under these current circumstances where freedom of expression is severely questioned and limited?
And also an activist, because I saw you are also involved in
environmental causes. But the situation right now, it's like it's gradually worse. We can see the movement towards the pressure, economic pressure on artists, but still we don't have this extreme cases of suppression in our country. So I can't say that our voices are shut, because they're still not. But we can feel the pressure on put it on artists, especially, for example, in those little gestures like opening theaters and cinemas in the last row when it comes to the restrictions of COVID. Like we're open with solariums in June, It's or redirecting fundings from artists who are really suffering during this year, not having any jobs, towards other groups of other groups of artists favored by the government. But it's still, I don't feel like I can speak my own voice. I'm not. Our mouths are not shut. But in the same moment, we live door to door with Belarus, for example, and we. Like I was born just right next to the border with Belarus, and I have a lot of friends involved for many years in the movements of free Belarus. So there's like next to my father's hometown, there is this festival, Basovishta for free Belarus, organized for so many years, where the artists from Belarus could express freely, and we know it for so long. It's not the case for the last 2020 summer when the whole protest started. It's such a long time that we're living next to it, and for me it's always incredible when the news explodes. And we live with the protests for a few weeks, and then we're losing our attention towards that because there is new horrible situation happening in other parts of the world. But people are still struggling. The same with Ukraine. There's ongoing conflict still for years, and obviously it's in the news for some time. We draw attention, but then there's this inertia. And in buildings like this one of, okay, we have to vote it, we have to talk about it. Where's the action? Where's the actual action? Because, okay, we're speaking that the character in my film is punished for doing right. It's really hard to do right, and we know what's that. It's the action. It's not, they're not sitting, there's this almost last scene when they're debating, all of them talking what to do, how to do it. The answer is and the answer is not obvious. This woman says like there is more to that. There are shades of gray in that story. Yes, we know. It's always a lot of shades of gray, but the answer is action, and we know what's right in the end of the day. It's like there is the debate what to do. Okay, but we know the answer is the action. We don't have to debate. Rather, we have to do something. No, we have to do something, like collectively. So that would be my answer. I don't know what was the question even.
To come back, I have some experience of working in Poland as well, as you know. I was one of the producers of Agnieszka Holland's last film. And it's interesting because this, let's say, censorship or the, let's say, cultural vindictiveness is not kind of as, it's quite subtle, actually. It's not as stupid as you think it would be.
Yeah.
And, so you have somebody like Agnieszka, who is one of the, most significant sort of filmmakers and dissident voices and active voices, against the regime. And yet, as a Czech co-production, we got Polish money to make that film. You see, so it's not kind of quite as clean cut as you might think,
Yeah, in the same moment, I know that if we would like to make a film about LGBT problem or story, we would think twice before we'll apply for fundings, and we're not sure if we would get that. And probably it doesn't have to be they wouldn't say this is the cause. We know about exhibitions being censored because of the explicit sexual content in there, but it wasn't the truth in the end. It's really shady.
Right. Well, in that, yes, it doesn't have the same kind of iron fist brutality that you have in Putin's cultural funding. That if there's anything queer, it's dead. So there's something else going on, I think.
Yeah, because to be honest, we are not in China here.
Yeah.
We are not in Rangoon. No.
Quite.
Everybody asks me in Canada or in Indonesia or from Brazil, how you manage with the mob and with the... No. Just a moment. We are not in Russia. We are in EU, and we are lucky to be here, to be honest, yes?
Yeah, but then again, we have to think about the deterioration of the rule of law in Poland, Hungary.
Absolutely.
Romania is a question to me. Bulgaria is a question to me. So, but there's been an unprecedented
for us also it's a question.
attention
For us.
You can throw a bit of
to
Croatia
rescuing
into
the
there as
rule
well.
of law, because that's the basis of a sound society, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have this infection also in the EU.
So let's, on that note, go over to Eva. I believe we have a question from somebody who's following us on WebEx.
Yes, yes, Jim, that is. Ron Stoll from the Netherlands, working for 27 Times Cinema, preferred that we read the question, and he's asking if you could reflect on the role of the documentaries against the feature film and their abilities to address difficult, critical, or political topics. Do you think freedom of expression is more easily navigated in one media over the other? For example, when it's not a documentary, it's a feature film, the lack of needing to make any claim of truth.
If I may, I have a
I was
short
gonna
answer.
say,
Yes,
You're the perfect person
I
to start
also-
on this.
Yes,
Katalin.
really. To be honest, I was so skeptical at the first. When Alexander now came to us in a newsroom, we say, no way. No way to be here to make a movie. Because we imagine it is something like Hollywood, yes, with 100 people, 20 camera, no. And after that, I saw the people, the audience, and not only from collective, but from the cave, the other. Welcome to Chechnya,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And I saw
Yeah.
the griefs and so much sensitive in the audience. And okay, I am a little frustrated because for me as a journalist, we seeking for the facts, not the director, yes. But for the people in the last decades, documentary movie means facts, and this is the risk for them.
Yeah.
Because I ask myself why they are in the risk, because people believe that what they put in their view, this is the true, and I think this is the true. This is one layer of the truth. And the relationship between journalism as a profession and the film is very, very interesting for me to seek not to be biased in analyze the bound, but it is a bound now. I
Katalin,
have to recognize it is a bound.
Yeah. Yeah.
you mentioned the whistleblowers earlier and how, the important role that they played.
Yeah, yeah.
But one question I wanted to ask you was, why did they come to your newspaper? Why did they come to you and not go to other newspapers in Romania?
I will
Why
give
did they confide in you?
You are right. I think the Variety magazine call the situation, these people that refer to us are incongruent. And this is true, because we are basically sport journalists.
Right.
Yes.
And to give you two short answers, the first answer is like this. When people read a sport newspaper, they are less skeptical, because we are not biased, political bias. And the second answer is like this. From the first day of our profession, we are training to resist the public, because we are in the middle of the passion of the football passion, and nobody, no government, no big company can do such pressure as a public, as a fan, as a ultras for a journalist. But we have to stay in the middle, and this is very important right now for the journalist, because as a mayor, as a politician, you can buy a lot of trolls on Facebook, on Twitter, and they put a lot of pressure in the newsroom. And the people from newsroom feel this kind of pressure. And they are so upset every day, but we are not. Of course, we are human beings. We feel the pressure, but we are trained to resist. We are not here to please the public. This is our first rule. No, we are here to give the facts, not the truth, because the difference, we don't know the truth.
Right.
And in the Corpus Christi, we don't know which is the reason
right?
for accident.
Yes.
Yes, we don't know the reason for the accident. Yes, but we know the facts.
So thank you, everybody. I'm very sorry to interrupt there. We have to almost finish things in about less than a minute. Maybe Vice President Hautala, would you like to give some final remarks before we wrap it up?
No, I just want to repeat that film and documentary have become so instrumental to the political world, to the activist world, to spread the word about issues that need to be solved. And I think it's great that the European Parliament has managed to co-create this LUX Audience Award now with the European Film Academy, and we look forward also to the nomination for the first time for the Daphne Caruana Galizia Prize on Brave Journalism. Not brave film necessarily, it could be film, but brave journalism.
Yeah.
Of course, our thoughts go also to the work that your magazine does. I'm not saying anything because I'm not in a jury. It's a professional jury. We are just the ones who deal with the award. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vice President Hautala. Thank you, Bartosz, Mike, Catalin. Thank you to everybody who is viewing. Don't go anywhere just yet. We have another panel coming up right now on the future of European cinema following the pandemic. Over to you, Eva.
Thanks, Jim. So, as part of the anti-COVID measures,
See you
the
later.
tables and the material need to be disinfected. So, while this happens and the speakers move and the new speakers come, I will explain you why and how the LUX Prize has changed and became the LUX Audience Award. Who are the persons involved in this change and what does the changes mean for the public? Let's watch first a short clip about the LUX Award Prize, Audience Award.
European Parliament and the European Film Academy celebrate filmmakers bringing European stories to our screens. And we need you to get involved by becoming part of Europe's biggest film jury ever. The new LUX Audience Award champions inspiring films that reflect the beauty and diversity of European cinema. For the first time, the public, together with members of the European Parliament, will choose the winner. 3 films have been nominated.
Der findes en norsk filosof. Han mener, at mennesket er født med en halv promille for lidt.
In another round, Danish filmmaker Thomas Vinterberg teams up with actor Mads Mikkelsen. 4 jaded high school teachers try out a boozy experiment, but it soon goes off the rails.
Bombă biologică în spitalele românești, dezinfectanții folosiți în mii de săli de operație sunt de fapt apă de ploaie.
In 2015, a fire in a Bucharest nightclub led to the death of 64 people. Collective focuses on journalists whose investigation into the fire exposes rampant corruption in the healthcare sector.
Kiedy Bóg do nas mówi, czasami zdarza mi się popełnić jakiś grzech, jakieś zło. Czasami myślimy, że niemożliwe, żeby Bóg tak chciał.
The blistering moral drama Corpus Christi follows Daniel, an ex-convict who finds himself filling in as the local priest in a small Polish town. His unconventional methods help his parishioners. The 3 films will be subtitled in the 24 official EU languages and screened across Europe until May 2021. The winner will be announced in a plenary ceremony in the European Parliament. The LUX Audience Award supports the circulation of European films, enabling thousands of film lovers to see the very best of European cinema.
Well, as you can see, there's a bit of movement in the plateau. The European Parliament and the European Film Academy, EFA, decided to merge their efforts, building up on the former LUX Prize, as it was explained before by our guests. The Film Prize of the European Parliament, established in 2007, and the EFA's People's Choice Award. In partnership with the European Commission and the European Cinema Network, Europa Cinemas, the European Parliament and the European Film Academy presented this new award. And what are the novelties about this new prize? First of all, it's about you, about the audience, about people who love cinema and goes to the cinema theaters to watch it. Soon we will back to normal and go to the cinemas again, and we are looking always forward to it. Because now we invite the audience to become the protagonists of the voting for the favorite films. This year, and most probably in 2022, because of the pandemic and its consequences, we are having 3 films nominated. But the aim is to have 5 films nominated in the near future. And how we go to these 3 films, or later these 5 films? This is the work of a selection panel chaired by the chairman of the European Film Academy, who was here right now, represented by Mike Downey, a well-known Irish producer and now also newly honorary president of the LUX Audience Award. There's also a selection of 20 panelists from different sectors, from different countries, trying to keep geographical balance and also, good to say, gender balance as well. These 20 panelists, together with the chair, need to choose 5 movies among the 40 or 50 films produced in Europe. Because there's a big and important European cinema industry that we hope it can go back to normal soon after this year of the pandemic. There are many reasons why Europeans love cinema, and we are going to go to a short clip now about this.
It's like coming home and you realize you forgot your key, and then suddenly you see that the door was always open.
I love European cinema because it's a window, it's escape, it's magic. It's 27 stories united by one strong tradition. It's European cinema.
European cinema has been a source of endless joy and inspiration throughout my life. And I want to thank Emir and Roy and all the other extraordinary filmmakers we have for giving me the opportunity to get to know and cry with and laugh with and fall in love with characters from every single corner of this magnificent continent.
European cinema is extremely important. It gives us a glimpse into the cultures that surround us here in Europe. And with that, it crosses borders and therefore brings us even closer together.
Il cinema europeo rappresenta uno dei patrimoni più preziosi che abbiamo, aiuta a raccontare la nostra storia, a comprendere le nostre società, è una chiave di lettura non solo della contemporaneità ma della nostra eredità culturale, ci rende consapevoli delle sfide che l'Europa e i nostri singoli paesi hanno affrontato insieme e che dovranno affrontare tenendosi per mano, per ricordarci ancora una volta che uniti siamo più forti.
European cinema can both charm me with recognizable stories I relate to, as well as surprise me with new perspectives on experiences that are not my own.
It tells stories of Europeans for Europeans, our stories. It's systematically relevant in our societies, especially now during this pandemic crisis.
Films help me find out more not only about others, but also about myself. They teach me how to open certain conversations, which can lead to very interesting points, and they help me embracing different points of view.
Que signifierait le cinéma s'il ne projetait notre regard vers le monde de nos désirs? L'art du cinéma consiste à s'approcher de la vérité des hommes et non à raconter des histoires de plus en plus surprenantes, disait Jean Renoir.
European cinema is special because it's a pure art. It's an amazing connection between artist and audience, and each movie is a different journey.
I'm really into the European cinema because every time that I watch a movie that represents the diversity of the culture and the diversity of the people who are walking around Europe, I feel that I'm traveling and that I am really represented on that kind of movie.
Stand either pro or against.
As you see, there are many reasons for loving European cinema, and this new award allows to the audience to go and vote for the movies. This year, European citizens could vote from December to May, almost for 6 months, in a dedicated platform the Parliament has created. Then members of the European Parliament also voted via a dedicated voting page, and it's not a quantitative vote but a more quality vote based on ratings. Therefore, ratings can be changed all the time until the voting closes, because the last one counts. The final ranking is determined by combining the public vote and the European Parliament members in a weight of 50%. The winning film, as you all know, will be announced at the LUX Audience Award ceremony tomorrow. And now I give the floor again to the main panel. Petra?
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the second panel of our webinar. We will be talking about European cinema after COVID, what are the main challenges to overcome, and also what can European Union do to help European filmmakers to continue doing their art. I let my colleague Eva to explain you some housekeeping rules, how to ask the questions, and then I can present you my 4 guests.
Well, as I said before, please keep the chat open and make the questions in the chat, because we really need to get to know all your questions in order to give you the floor. If you have no technical issues, we will give you the word, and then you can do it yourselves. If not, I can read the questions from the chat. Back to you, Petra.
Thank you very much, Eva. So let me present you my 4 guests today. I'm here with Mrs. Sabine Verheyen. Mrs. Verheyen is the chair of European Parliament's Committee on Culture. You have been accompanying this award, which was called LUX Prize before, since several years, and you have been also leading the negotiations in the name of the Parliament for the new Creative Europe program. Welcome. Mr. Alexander Nanau from Romania, director and producer of the movie Collective. It's a documentary which talks about uncovering of the corruption in the Romanian healthcare system. You were nominated for Oscars this year. Welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. Kasper Dissing from Denmark, producer of the movie Another Round, which is a story of drinking experiment turned badly. You got the Oscar this year. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And there will be also American version of your movie coming.
Hopefully.
Am I right? Okay,
Yes.
welcome. And Mr. Bartosz Bielenia from Poland, lead actor of the movie Corpus Christi, which is a story partly based on a real event about a convict who by accident becomes a priest in a remote village, and you were nominated for Oscar.
By accident, but
And you were nominated for Oscars last year. Yeah. Welcome everyone. And my first question is, how is it in your countries now? Are the cinemas open, or where they are going to open? Whoever wants to start.
Right now, I think they're open for the last week. So we had this period like 2 months ago that we were open for 2 weeks. Then it was closed again. But now it's summertime and everyone is in cinema and 50% capacity, but it's open.
Mm-hmm. And in Denmark?
Denmark reopened a few weeks ago. I think we have 50% capacity as well now.
Mm-hmm.
We closed in December last year, so we had 5 months of shutdown, which has been really hard on the cinemas, of course. And the change from the last time when Another Round was in the cinemas and to now, where we, Centropa also have a film running, is that now we have another regulation of having a COVID passport. And so it's 50% capacity, but I think it's less than that in reality.
Mm-hmm. And in Romania?
They are open, the same with restrictions, but our cinemas were closed for 1 year, which is damaging for the industry. But I guess in Denmark, I guess there were state funds that supported the closed cinemas and the culture that had to close down, right?
Well, I don't own a cinema, but so I'm not quite sure how they were funded, but I know that they got something.
Yeah.
And I know that it has been really hard on the cinemas.
Exactly, yeah. In Romania, for example, the problem was that during the pandemic, there was not one single mechanism to support any culture that had to close down. Independent theaters or cinemas had no funding at all.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was a big difficulty because we had different situations. We had some countries who kept in a grade with reductions and obligations for the cultural institutions like cinema, theaters, that they could open, but in a reduced format, which was economically sometimes a disaster. On the other hand, you also wanted to keep the contact to your audiences, and I think that's the big problem also for the cinemas. If you once lose your audience towards streaming services and others, to get them back, and I think that will also be a task for the future, how to help cinemas to get back their audiences to the cinema again. Some try to do it with with drive-in cinemas or other, let's say, methods of contacting to your audience, but that was not really economically successful in the end. But it helped a little bit to show we are still there. For example, in Germany, where I do come from, we had a loss, a drop in sales of 1 billion euro in cinemas. And taking that into account, I was always wondering that not so many cinemas died definitely in the end, because there were support schemes. But now the reopening that might start perhaps during summer again, when the figures go down, that will be the big challenge also after the crisis, how to set up the cinema and the movie sector in total to come back to this success they had before the crisis, the pandemic.
Mm-hmm. And during the pandemic, what were the biggest changes for you? For example, you, Mr. Bielania, you as an actor, did you have to do auditions or rehearsals online? And you, Mr. Dissing and Mr. Nanau, what changed for you as producers and director?
I was pretty lucky during the COVID this year because one of the films, Primetime, was shot during the really loose time and restrictions during summer last year. And the film was created just like for the pandemic, because it was just one place, few actors, TV studio. So it was really easy to isolate. We were living in one hotel, going buy food on the set. So no one really contracted COVID. We did it in 28 days, and we were done. But at the same time, we always felt this blade above our heads that we knew if anyone would get COVID during our shot, because it's a debut, we won't finish the film. There won't be money. We're done. If we're stopping it for a week or two, we're done. We can't do it. And then I went to do a film in Slovakia, and also we had this 2 months when it was really good situation in Slovakia. Just after we finished the film, it was just numbers spiked through the roof. So I was pretty lucky. And in the same moment, everything goes online, and people are getting used to doing video castings and everything. So that was kind of normal. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to go in to every place in the world if you're doing auditions somewhere out of your country.
Yeah, so it was easier for you in this.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And for you, Mr. Dissing?
Well, for production, it's I just wanted to agree on that blade hanging over, and I think that goes for every type of budget film that there is, because one thing is the additional costs that it takes in order to secure the restrictions every area has in regards to Corona. The other thing is the constant fear of somebody getting COVID, either because some people, when they get sick, they actually die. But the other thing is very much more dangerous for everybody else, actually, that everything will shut down immediately. And that is hard to work under, I think.
Yeah. What about insurances? Are there any insurances regarding COVID?
No.
No.
Not to my, maybe you know that, but not to my knowledge. There isn't any, because COVID, not at the moment there isn't a COVID insurance.
It's a big risk.
It's a very big risk. So you make deals with the Actors Guild and the Film Workers Union to facilitate that you split the costs in some way. So we could, I think in Denmark, we could cancel shoots with 1 week's notice, and then we split something like that.
I think that's a problem of the whole cultural sector, because the structures are quite different to, let's say, normal workers who have a contract, who have a health insurance. When they get sick, they they have an insurance that pays for the fallout, also for the employers. They have not much higher costs as with another illness, but the question is with the quarantine that is coming up also to those who are not sick, because they are not covered by an health insurance. That's a total fallout of of working power, and that would be the same when you have a production and you have to close down the set. Perhaps for those persons who have COVID, it's fine because they have a health insurance, but all the others are falling out of that. And I don't know, you asked that question, if at the moment some insurance company has a special kind of insurance for such things, for pandemics. Normally they exclude it from the police.
It sounds quite expensive, that
yeah,
insurance.
it might be. It's also with natural disasters.
And Mr. Nanau, how it was for you?
I was somehow also lucky because our whole international release campaign for Collective fell exactly into that period, and so we were lucky that many of the distributors worldwide managed to change their distribution strategy from offline to online, and so basically I spent a lot of time working for the distribution campaign of the film, and that took a lot of time. But in Romania it was very complicated for producers because the Romanian Film Fund, the Romanian CNC, basically had no financing round from 2019 until recently, 1 month ago. So basically you have one country in Europe where the producers cannot even enter. If I want to do a co-production with Kasper, I cannot, because I cannot guarantee that when I can come with our part of the co-production. And it continues in Romania because even now, you know, they organized one financing round and say we don't know if we'll do the second one, which is legally binding, but they say we don't know if we will have the money if we'll do it. So basically there's zero predictability in Romania for a producer in the film business, which affects dozens of thousands of people behind these films.
But this lack of financing was related to COVID or not at all?
No.
And then I would like to hear your views, your opinions about how do you see the European filmmaking post-COVID? What will change, if the storytelling will change also, and if there is something that will never be the same again? Are we to expect like really big changes? Maybe we can start from you now.
I don't know. I mean, as a storyteller, for sure, there's a different way of, you know, looking at the world, trying to understand what happened to us, trying to see if, you know, people perceive stories differently. But to be honest, I think that we will get pretty fast back to the way we perceived the world before the pandemic. And I also hope that people, you know, will go back to the cinemas. And I think for Europe it's very important that people go to the cinemas because most of the streamers are not European. And we really need that income from the theaters.
I also want to go to cinema. I miss it. And you too? How do you think? How do you see it?
I don't really know what it means after COVID, or is there any after COVID? Like, I mean, it probably stays with us in some way. So at the very beginning of the pandemic, when I've heard that, for example, in the United States, I don't know, for example, for Europe, that they would, for example, create zones for crews that you will have the passes to go to certain places. It really destroys kind of collective feeling of creativity for me. Like, as an actor, I really like to work with and know what's the energy of the whole crew working on the material, how all the people feel about the scene that we're creating, not only director, me and a few colleagues, but how all the technicians and everyone who's there with us watching what we're doing, how they feel. And I can't imagine being, you know, detached from all of that on the set. But for now, during the COVID, when we were doing films in Poland, it seems kind of normal in the same way. It is kind of normal. We're tested, we're cautious, but it seems normal. I don't know. I don't know how it can influence. I also miss really cinema, and I think and I believe that we will go to the cinemas. We won't stay with our computers. Because it's such an experience to be together, to experience film together in one space, it's so beautiful and profound. So I think we'll go back to the cinemas as soon as it's possible.
Mm-hmm. And you, Mr. Dissing?
I agree. I think what we saw in Denmark when we reopened the cinemas for the first time was that people flooded into the cinemas. There were 50% restrictions, something like that. Maybe it was 70, something like that. It was fine. You could go to the cinema, and everybody went to the cinema. Anybody who used to go to the cinema went to the cinema. So I think that is happening again now that we reopen, and I think that you, as a person who goes to the cinema, you want to get back there. And not only the cinemas, everything that you used to be able to do, go to concerts, go to restaurants and bars, and everything that we've been missing for a year, we want to go back to doing that.
Mm-hmm.
We've all been very worried if we need to re-educate people to go into the cinemas. And that's a very negative way to look at it. Really what we should do is to know what our product is. I think a lot of cinemas are very focused on showing as many films as possible during the day instead of catering to the experience of the film. Shoving people out the back door when it's done instead of showing them into the entrance hall again to have a beer or something like that. At least in Denmark, I would like to have a beer after a film.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
No, so my hopes actually, I think I would like to talk about that. My hopes for post-COVID is that the cinemas grow to know what their product is, and their product is experiences. And people want experiences, and people have been sitting at home for a year watching streaming services. And one thing about streaming services is there is no curation of the films. And the cinemas curate the films. You find a cinema that you like, or you just find any cinema that you like. You have a curated selection of films, and you choose from that, and that's really nice. Because when I turn on my TV, I have 5 streaming services, and they each have 1,000 films, so I just watch the same TV series over and over.
Yeah, it's interesting because even now talking to different households and friends, we just recently had the discussion that in every household basically a couple needs at least half an hour to choose a film from the streaming platform, which is really bad. I mean, it was talked about as a very negative thing.
Happy.
And because you asked now if we perceive storytelling, I think we will perceive after the pandemic, as you say, I think that we will cherish the experience in a different way. So maybe that's the time for cinemas to really rethink their way of inviting viewers, their way of giving them an experience, because now people are open. Now, you know, all theaters are open to have an experience. That will change.
I think it would perhaps also be an idea to make a kind of small festival in a cinema to show what has been produced during the last years in the COVID times, because I think many cinemas are also suffering that not as many movies are coming to the cinemas as it was normal, because also the production was reduced. And that was the feedback we got also from those who are owners and organizers of cinemas, that they said even if we could open, we don't have the choice we had before. Also to set up a program, to edit also a series of movies that fits together, that brings people going regularly to the cinema, and not just for one blockbuster. I think the blockbusters are sometimes important for cinemas also to get the masses, but if you don't have also additional other offers, it becomes difficult, and the choice was lower. You did not have so many movies, but I hope that with coming back to a kind of normal, and you said that you experienced that it will be like it was before, more like it was before than somehow changed in the production of a movie. I hope that we will come back also to the big choice we had before, especially of European film, not depending on the series of the streaming services. And coming to that, what you said, yes, after half an hour we also had an agreement, but in the end, not always both are happy with that.
Yes, and it's very tiring.
With compromise, they find. But I think it is important to really to come back to a kind of normal. For that, it's important to have people vaccinated. For that, it's important also to take measures that also those who don't want to be vaccinated or don't have the chance to be vaccinated to get access. And that's the question of testing, of vaccination, of the modalities you give to come back to normal. Because I feel that people want to go back to what they were used, and they will find their way back very fast. Even the offers and the addiction to more online offers is there, that's clear, but I think to have the event of going to the cinema, drinking your beer before or after, going for dinner before a movie or after the movie, I think it's more than just watching a movie, it's really an experience you make on the big screens in the cinemas.
Speaking of curating, one of the great things that happened in Poland, for example, with streaming platforms, is that there are two streaming platforms created by great Polish film festivals. It's New Horizons and Millennium Dogs Against Gravity. They launched their streaming platforms. For example, on New Horizons, you have 300 curated films from their festival. Same with Millennium Dogs Against Gravity. And like last 4 months was just great cinema experience for me at home. We were just organizing our little cinema with few friends, with a projection at home, and having the access to the films that were on the festival. When I was going on those festivals, it was really hard sometimes to get tickets for that screenings that you really wanted to. But on that platform, it's possible to watch really great films, and it's curated, and it's a good thing that happened recently, that you don't have to go and watch only a big streaming platform but if for a few bucks you can just watch a great film at your home. It's also nice.
We have a question from the audience.
Yes, Petra, we have a question from the audience. Is Darta Vigrice? I'm opening his mic right now, and is working for 27 Times Cinema 2020 in Latvia. Darta, your mic is open.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. I wanted to ask, how do you think the networking among filmmakers would change post-COVID? Because with less events in person, it just seems to be more difficult to make these meaningful connections at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Darta. Have you understood the question? You could hear it well?
I'm not sure.
Okay. She was asking how the networking among filmmakers would change post-COVID. And with less events in person, it seems to get more difficult to network and make these meaningful film connections. How are you going to manage that?
It's true. It's going to be more difficult. But I want to give just a quick shout out to Producers on the Move program, which used to be in Cannes, but was on Zoom this year. And that actually worked out really well. For once, a Zoom event really worked out well. But you have to follow it up with personal meetings, because it's really strange to just meet people on Zoom, and you need to have that personal connection. So it's going to be tough, but come on, we can travel soon.
Yeah, I think we will get back to normal soon. But maybe, it's true. There were lessons to be learned during the pandemic, and a combination of online and offline things, and how you introduce people, how you present projects. You can do it online, and then people will meet offline. I'm optimistic. I think that soon we're going to be able again to, do what we've done before.
I always hope that we keep the best from both. because there were also many possibilities to meet people you normally could not meet because they are on a set, not being able to come to an exchange or to a conference or something like that. It was also with us in the Parliament. It was so easy to get experts for hearings during that time because they did not have to travel.
Yeah.
It is good to meet. It is also good to have personal exchanges. And I was missing that really by heart because don't see people, don't be not able to touch them. It belongs to communication that you not just see the face in a little picture on the screen, but to have that in addition, to have hybrid formats in future where also people who are not able to join can participate. I think that will be the future, to find the right way of a hybrid system that encourages people to meet in person, but that enables also others who are not able to come to join a meeting and an exchange and a network also remotely.
But also reduce traveling. I mean, I think we traveled too easily before. I mean, we can really reduce traveling a lot.
For a short chat or a short exchange, it's also good to do it with one of the platforms that are established now. I don't mention one specifically because I have so many on my computer meanwhile. but I think it's a good chance.
Yeah, and I think, at least for me, I learned something about what's important for me. And it turns out that having a Zoom meeting is extremely effective. People show up on time, first of all. We're not used to that. And you're finished on time because I have a free Zoom account, so it shuts down after 40 minutes. But what turns out you miss is less efficiency. You need to have this brief moment where you sit down and talk about nothing and
smell someone.
And smell someone. It's really strange to look people deeply into the eyes over Zoom.
And touch.
Yeah. You like all of that. So we need less efficiency in relationships between people, I think.
Maybe one day technology will also transform the smells and things.
It could be a dangerous path to follow, hopefully.
Yeah. And I have another question for you, because now during the pandemic, everybody became more aware about ecology, sustainability, and everybody is more and more ready to do some more effort in their daily life. And I wanted to see with you if you have seen in your movie-making business, if there were some initiatives to make it greener, like, as you already said, to travel less, to reduce waste, because I have seen on the set sometimes they're using always plastic cups and everyday different plastic cups or something. There are some initiatives to do something in this regard?
I don't know about initiatives, but I know for sure how people around me have changed. Be it from people transforming their houses into woods. Also, our house is now full of plants. It's basically a wood. And I think the pandemic did something with all of us. You lived in the woods during the pandemic. I think we all became a bit more aware of what counts and what we want. And I must say that, when you book a ticket, you think about it now. I mean, I think about it like, do I really have to do this travel? Can't I solve it by 2 or 3 Zoom calls and then do one meeting per year somewhere where I meet the people? It's for sure. I think people think about it, or should at least think about it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that, especially among the young producers. For example, with the last film, Primetime, we used for costumes, almost 90% of the costumes were from secondhand. And we gave it all to the people in need afterwards. Or our scenography was reused. We were trying to reduce our carbon footprint while doing the scenography or traveling. They were thinking about it, so it's there. It's changing. It's really changing. For example, having a lot of vegetarian options in catering, or it's there. It's there. It's a graduate change. I didn't experience that during COVID. That it's like especially focused on that, but it's a graduate change.
Will it make a difference to the way you tell the stories, the content of the films, the way you You have the approach also in the movie itself. Will the pandemic influence our way how we look also in the movies from the content side to a special issue?
I hope we don't get 1,000 pandemic films.
Yes.
Yes.
I immediately thought the same. Really.
I saw that in American series where they now all are running around with masks.
Yeah.
Okay, it's reality for the people today, but do I really want to have these stories always just like this? Or do I want to tell stories in a normal way?
No, I think it happens in a more subtle way that people have different sensibilities after a year of a pandemic. As we talked about the experience in a cinema versus it's the same as having a Zoom call or meeting someone face to face. And I'm sure that it does influence the way people tell stories, but I don't think it is analyzable how you change telling your story. It's something that you do instinctively.
Yeah, it's also a graduate process, in my opinion, because, for example, we saw in cinema like appearance of smartphones. It was really hard to make a scene with people talking, because people talk right now looking a lot into their smartphones, and I haven't seen that in cinema till last year or 2 years ago, that there was a proper scene that people were just really doing it, not in an obvious way that we're using it in the wrong way. We're not looking into each other's eyes anymore. But, you know, it's just a year of wearing masks. If we would talk about this year in cinema, we'll use it, but hopefully we won't have to do it for forever. So hopefully.
I think we are already almost running out of time. Eva, is there some other question from the audience?
No, there are no more questions, Petra.
So, does anybody want to say something, some closing remarks?
Okay.
Voilà,
I thought I talked too much. No, I hope that we come back very soon after the pandemic to a kind of normal. And what I hope is that the member states realize that also the recovery fund that was set up by the European Union has to also be used for helping the sector to come back to a successful future again. Because I think cinema, the movie sector, the media in general is a very, very important sector for our economy on the one hand, but more also for our societies, and to bring people together all over Europe with the stories we tell from different perspectives and to get a better understanding from each other. And that's why I hope that the member states are intelligent enough to support the sector out of the 750 billion euros that are available there.
Yeah, then to this I have a question, for example, how can it be, I don't know, of control, but there are big differences between countries like the former East European countries, that many of them, like Romania, do not support culture, and the governments do not care about the cultural sector. And how can you basically, from a central point, like here, have a say in that and control over that? Because we as Romanian producers, we tell our government and our CNC, you didn't have a financing round since 1.5 years. What should we do? Do we fire everybody? Do we close down our companies? And they just laugh into our face. They don't care.
Yeah, that was the problem we had. We as cult committee, we fighted to getting for getting an obligation to take at a minimum 2% of the money that is given to the member states for the recovery to be put into the cultural and creative sectors. But the member states didn't support that. And in the end, you need also the okay of the member states if you want to do that. But for the parliament, it was important to have that at a minimum as a, let's say, now I'm searching for the English word to suppose that to the to make a proposal for that. And the Commission, we asked also the Commission to take care that the operational programs that are set up by the member states may also include a part for the cultural sector, because the cultural and creative industries in total counts for 4.9% of the GDP in Europe. So it's really not just a societal factor, which is very important and important also for functioning democracies, but it's also an economical factor that should not be underestimated. And with more than 8 million people employed in the sector, it's more than automotive industries. And perhaps not just the cultural ministers should be set on this train, but also the ministers for economy and finance should understand that culture is not a nice to have, but really
it's an industry.
It's an
that
industry,
brings back money,
and it's of structural relevance for the functioning of our societies.
Yeah, that's what we try to explain all the time, and nobody believes it in Romania.
You are right. So, okay, we are running out of time, so we have to finish. Thank you very much, everybody, for being here. It was a real pleasure to exchange with you. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching us. Remember that tomorrow there will be a LUX Award ceremony. It starts at 12 Central European Time. You can watch it live on European Parliament Facebook page and on LUX Award Facebook page. Thank you very much, and I give the word back to Eva.
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you to all the attendees online, and I have also a last comment. It was from Dimitras Sluka from Street Radio in Greece. He was saying, in Greece we have open-air cinemas that just reopened. They make going to the cinema a bit easier in the COVID area. I know weather helps. So just wanted to finish with this touch.
Thank you very much.
That was the big problem we also had here.